Hello everyone, my name is Vlad, I'm from Shell Software Inc. In this video I'm going to show you the new features introduced in ActionButton Library for Android version 1.10. The first thing to mention is the default values. Some of the users claim that ActionButton shadow default values do not conform the material design guidelines. This is true and these values were changed. Shadow radius and Y-axis offset both changed to 8 density independent pixels. X-axis offset was completely removed. This is so because according to material design guidelines, the light goes from the top to the bottom. Of course, you can modify these values as you want. Now let's talk about the new features. The three new major features are shadow responsive effect, ripple effect, and the action button moving. Shadow responsive effect means that shadow is changed in response to the user input. When user clicks the button and holds it, shadow radius increases to a certain value. Then when user releases the button, shadow radius decreases to its initial value. Shadow maximum radius can't be changed. It is calculated by multiplying the shadow initial radius and shadow response factor, which is by default 1.75. I have to mention that due to limitations on the pre-lollipop devices, shadow responsive effect leads to increasing of the action button general view size. In this case, view size calculated based on the maximum value of the shadow radius. This means that even if there is a place near the action button unfilled, it is actually used by shadow responsive effect. When I completely remove the shadow now, you can see that there is no unfilled space between the action button and the right and end margins. And now, while I'm increasing the shadow radius with shadow responsive effect enabled, you can see that this space also increasing. So keep this in mind when configuring action button. Shadow responsive effect enabled by default. Remember that for lollipop devices and higher, in case if elevation enabled, shadow and shadow responsive effect won't be drawn. The next feature, ripple effect, indicates where and when a touch occurs within the action button and acknowledges that the touch input was received. Let's see how it works. When you press the action button, you can see that the touch point gets detected and the ripple effect starts the drawing of the ripple circle from the point of a touch. When button released, its color changes back to the normal one. In case when ripple drawing was not finished, the final ripple circle fills the button before it changes back to the normal state. Ripple effect disabled by default. The last major new feature is the possibility to move the action button. Moving is performed using the external ViewMover library for Android developed by Shell Software Inc. This library performs the moving depending on the SDK version in such way. For the pre-Jelly Bean devices, moving is performed by changing the view margins within its parent container. For Jelly Bean devices and higher, moving is performed by changing the absolute position of the view within its parent container. If there is no place in parent container to move the view, then it won't be moved. Action button has 4 methods for moving in standard directions, which are move left, move up, move right, and move down. Currently you can see the up and down moving and now left to right moving. There is also a possibility to perform a more advanced configuration providing X and Y axis deltas, moving duration and animation interpolator. Moving is very useful in cases when you need to move the action button in order to show additional content, such as snack bar. Now a few words about improvements. The most interesting improvement is the touch point detection. When user clicks the action button entire view, the touch point gets detected. Action button state won't change to pressed in case if X and Y touch point coordinates are outside the main circle. So when I touch the action button inside the view but outside the main circle, nothing happens, like now. Additionally, if action button pressed and user moves the finger outside the main circle, action button state changed back to normal. Another improvement is that action button size can now be changed. This actually breaks the rules of material design, and button type parameter in this case completely ignored. However, there can be cases when you need a custom action button size. Additionally, the new action button type big was introduced. It has a size of 72 density independent pixels and may be useful for the large screens. However, note that this type is not part of material design. That's all for 1.10 release. Have a nice day and check for updates.